Happy Monday, folks. Welcome once again. Hockey playoff edition is over, but we're gonna continue to provide you guys with some hockey content. I am Miguel Mike Medina. This is my partner Jim Biringer. Jim, how's it going, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. Good weekend. Stanley Cup final in the books. Off season, a lot of things going on. Catching up on a lot of things, but I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. That parade, that Vegas had was epic. And the fact that it was like 97, 98 degrees is like, I can only imagine how the humidity was there.
Yeah, it's warm down here. It's definitely warm by me too. It's a little windy, but it's nice. It's summer weather out there right now, so it's nice to see.
All right, so we're gonna talk about E60 Once Upon a Time in Anaheim. What a fascinating documentary it was. And The Mighty Ducks is my favorite hockey movie. Because you have the first one, the second one, the third one. I feel that the second one is the best one. But in terms of my favorite one, I like the first one because this was an underdog team that was so poor, that was it was basically growing pains. It was the beginning of everything. That's why the first one, I can resonate more with the first one. The second one is great, obviously, but for me, I like the first one more. But it's unbelievable how one script can change so many things and can take you to so many places, and it happened with this particular movie.
Yeah, it's crazy that, the underdog story of District 5, Gordon Bombay, the lawyer, he plays for the Hawks. He goes up against the Hawks, this underdog team where they came from. And look, it's got a cult following now. I mean, even if you're not a hockey fan, you understand, the Mighty Ducks is something that you're going to watch. And I agree. I think the first one's definitely the best one. But, I mean, D2 was really good, too. I can quote that movie as well, and I can quote the first one. And, just to see the different characters, but the ultimate underdog story from a team think about this, right? Like, when do sports franchises get named after like movie teams? Like when does that ever happen? And then, Eisner with Disney, it was the Mighty Ducks, and here they are. And it was that early 90s with that expansion era going on. You had San Jose coming in the league, you had Tampa coming in the league, Ottawa was back, the Ducks were coming in, like the expansion era was starting to begin again.
Have you been to Anaheim before?
I've been to Anaheim. I actually was there when Paul Kariya got his number retired. I did that West Coast swing. I saw the Buffalo Sabres in all the time, so I was on the Buffalo West Coast road trip. Saw them in San Jose, Anaheim, LA. I got to say the pond is very nice, and it's right across from the baseball stadium, I should say.
Yeah, like I was thinking, this documentary gave me more motivation to go to Anaheim. So if I'll go to Anaheim, it will be like around April, because I would like to catch both an Angels game and a Ducks game over there. So when I go to travel, most of the time, I gotta go when somebody's playing. So I would like to go when both of them are playing. But man, and it's funny because in part 3 of the Mighty Ducks, I didn't know this until I got older. And when I got into hockey, I didn't realize until I got older that Paul Kariya made an appearance in part 3. So, but this was like after he retired, stuff like that I noticed, because out of the 3 movies.
Was that after he retired? I thought that was when he was still playing.
No. I'm saying that I noticed it. What I'm trying to say is that the first 2 movies of the Mighty Ducks is the ones that I always watch a lot. Part 3 is like the least one that I watch. Yeah. So then I remember one day, like I decided to put my full attention into watching it, and this was after Paul Kariya retired, that I noticed that he made an appearance in that movie, and this was, early on in his career. So the unfortunate part about it is that he didn't get to experience that 2007 championship compared to Selanne. Selanne wasn't there in 2003, but then again, he came back and he was there in 2007. And he said it himself in the documentary that what sucks about winning that title is that Paul Kariya wasn't there with him to winning it.
Yeah, no, definitely. When Timo Solani came into the league, Winnipeg Jets, you knew who he was, 72 goals. And then when he went to Anaheim and they start after those early years where they were like really bad, like they were awful. Like they were just awful. They've been out spend money, they bring in Timo Solani, and one of the most iconic duos in hockey are from the Mighty Ducks. I mean, you think about it, it's Paul Kariya and it's Timo Solani. Those guys were hand in hand and they went in the Hockey Hall of Fame together. Yeah, and it sucks that Kariya wasn't there in 2007 for that title for Anaheim, because he was one of the original guys. I mean, they drafted him, out of Maine, Hobie Baker winner. Like, this guy put the franchise on the map, and then you have Timo Solani there, and there, Guy Bear, and all the guys that were there, and just to see that Timo got his cup and Paul Kariya didn't was kind of hard. But you know what, the fact that they have their numbers retired in their Hockey Hall of Famers, that's, I think, a little bit more special too.
Yeah, most definitely. And what I like about that story of the Mighty Ducks is that of the Paul Kariya era is that they got swept by the Red Wings in '97, in '99, and then they finally got the revenge by sweeping them in 2003, the year after they had a crazy roster of the 2002 Red Wings team. And I could go down by the list, but you know how stacked that Red Wings team was in 2002. So the fact that you shocked the world and swept them in 2003, people felt like, you know what, this team is for real. They can go away. And it only took one game. They were just missing that one game, in which we're going to be talking about that on this week on Wednesday. But sorry for Anaheim. I was rooting for the Devils to win that series. So, but much love to Anaheim Ducks. Mostly because the Mighty Ducks is my favorite hockey movies. So, but what a fantastic documentary! You had Goldberg showing up. You had Connie there. It would have been great if they would have gotten a few more players from those kids or those movies. But hey, we got Goldberg.
Yeah, and good for him. Goldberg's turned his life around. I mean, we saw what happened during COVID, the jail, the homelessness, all that stuff. People reaching out. He's turned his life around. Good to hear from him. And like you touched on it, look, I wish they would have touched a little bit more on '97 in that run, because yes, they lost in the first round. But if you go back and you watch those games, they gave Detroit everything they had and a little bit more. And yeah, was it a sweep? Absolutely. But Guy Bear stood on his head in some of those games. I mean, they played really well against that Detroit team in 1997. And, again, in 99. But what they did in 2003, they beat them in overtime. It was like, okay, here we go. The Ducks are for real now. And when they sweep them, they win in overtime, all this stuff. Then you go on and play Dallas. And I'll never forget staying up for that marathon 5 overtime game against Dallas. Peter Sikora, the former Devil. So backtrack before he scores the goal. That offseason, Peter Sikora gets traded from the Devils to the Ducks for Jeff Friesen and Oleg Tverdovsky. So it was kind of funny that the players of the trade meet in the Stanley Cup final, but Sikora scores the game that wouldn't end, did. And you just hear some of the calls, right, in those games, like from like Steve Levy and Gary Thorne, brings you back to like ESPN commentary. And not to say the guys now aren't great, but you just wish you had Gary Thorne back on television.
Oh my goodness, that's what made me fall in love with hockey. It started mostly because of Gary Thorne's play-by-play call. And listen, when we're watching it from TV screen, they make it look so easy, but it's hard. Doing play-by-play is hard, especially hockey, because it's very fast-paced. So your vocabulary got to be fast. Everything got to be fast, and you got to be very descriptive. And I just feel that from a play-by-play perspective in hockey, there is no one that does that great of a job than Gary Thorne and Mike Doc Embrick. I feel like those two, in my lifetime, I've never seen, that could bring that emotion and, wordplay. I mean, Mike Doc, he was just insane with
Oh,
his vocabulary. Saying ricochet, saying a whole bunch of other stuff, but when it comes to emotion, when it comes Gary Thorne, he just like, I don't know, like I get chills like when I hear some of his calls, especially in hockey. He's great in baseball, but hockey is where I love him the most.
yeah, Gary Thorne was the best. I mean, you go back to the final, Scott Stevens, the hit on Korea, off the floor, you know. So
Off the
that quote,
floor, on the
or the
board.
board, call Korea, and they're going 7. And look, Anaheim, look, you go from a Devils perspective, we can get more on this on Wednesday. From a Devils perspective, that series should have been over in 4 games. It wasn't. Give credit to Anaheim. They played well. Some wacky things went on in that series, to say the least. Game 3, especially, with Brodeur and the stick and everything like that. But Anaheim gave it a run. And don't forget, they played the Minnesota Wild in the Western Conference Final that year. Minnesota knocked off Colorado. And by the way, Andrew Brunette ended Patrick Waugh's career in overtime in that playoff. Kind of crazy to think. They meet up with the Devils, and things just didn't go well. And again, they had the layoff, but they put together such a great run to get to that point and play hard, and just a weird series. But the fact that they went from this laughing stock of a team to seriously, showing they could be contenders in the league, and then obviously they chop off the Mighty Ducks and they just become the Ducks. But the retro stuff is coming back, and the old logo and the iconic colors, like that's what people remember. And this team, they just played well. And Mike Babcock was their coach in 2003, OFYI, for people that didn't realize that. So everything came together at the right time for them in 2003. And you can't, they put a heck of a run together. One more game, you never know. But again, sometimes the storybook doesn't end the right way in real life.
Yeah, the Ducks definitely didn't have a Hollywood ending for 2003, but hey, they got something in 2007, 4 years later. So something is something. There was something I wanted to say. Yes, the old logo, which reminded me of part 2 of the movie. But like, I would like to get a shirt. And speaking of which, I have the Charlie Conway jersey.
Yes.
From the first one. And now that I'm listening to you talk, I'm like, damn, I should have wore that for this content. but hey, who knows, down the line for something else, I might do that. But it's warm here, so I could give it a pass for today. But in terms of the one that, the old school one from part 2, I would like to get a shirt or something with that, because that logo is just iconic for the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, iconic for the Ducks. It reminds you of Korea, reminds you of Solani, reminds you of all those guys that got up to that point, that were on that team, that, were essential. And, I definitely want to get one as well. Just the old school look is the best. It's coming back, but the colors aren't the same. You gotta have it. And then, thinking about like the expansion era, the expansion draft, it was way different back then. And they had a lot of bad players, some good players, but they just couldn't put it all together. Some craziness that happened that opening night. And, the rest is history, as they say, right?
Yeah, man. But boy, that documentary was everything. I gotta rewatch it again, maybe sometime this week. Again, I just wish they could have interviewed a few more players from those movies. Like, again, it's great that we got Goldberg there. It's great that Connie was there. And Connie is one of the original Mighty Ducks cast members that she's involved in almost everything. You see her in every reunion, whether it's a small or big one. She even made an appearance in the new Disney version of The Game Changers, which I saw season 1 because of Emilio Estevez, but then since he didn't come back for season 2 because of the stupid vaccine situation, then I wasn't motivated to watch anymore. But yeah, I wish there could have been more people they would have gone for the interview for this documentary. But hey, you get what you can get.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you think about it, right? Iconic duos and the Mighty Ducks in the movies and the TV and the real team, obviously Korea, Solani, Charlie Conway, Adam Banks, and the Bash Brothers. Like those are the iconic duos that have really like put that uniform. And again, part two was everything that it was. Emilio Estevez was awesome. It was Gordon Bombay. Like with you, I watched season one because of Emilio Estevez, and since he didn't come back, I was like, well, it's all right. But the movies are what they are. They're legendary. They have a cult following, and I didn't know that Peter Berg was a part of that. I was like, oh wow, I didn't know Peter Berg was a part of that. That was kind of cool. I learned some things there too. But again, just iconic and just a great documentary. And I'm glad. Hopefully, we can get more hockey documentaries out there.
Yeah, we should, because we had a blast watching Unrivaled, and then when ESPN followed with this one, we gotta have more. But you just gotta love. I love sports documentaries when they're done right.
Yeah.
And obviously, no documentary is gonna be perfect, because us as fans, we could say like, damn, like they should touch a little bit more on this. They should have gotten this person, or why they didn't get this person, stuff like that. But it's a good documentary overall about a team that created basically off of a movie, something that is barely unheard of. But fantastic documentary. And now we're off to Wednesday, in which we're gonna talk about the Devils' 20th anniversary since they last won the Stanley Cup. There you go.
There it is.
There it is. It's crazy that it's been 20 years. I know that they won, I believe it was on June 9th, but I waited till after the Stanley Cup Finals was over so we could talk about this. So for those of you who are watching this, stay tuned for Wednesday night. I'm going to premiere the video of me and Jim. We're going to go over 2003 and that Devils team. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to talk about the Devils. Can't believe it's been 20 years since I was at Game 7 for the 2003 Stanley Cup Championship. And watching what happened over the weekend with Vegas and how Vegas celebrated. Hopefully our teams can get a Stanley Cup championship again, because that party was wild and it was fun. And Wild Bill Carlson is a legend for everything they did. But I can't wait to talk about the Devils, the Stanley Cup final, and that team and that era of hockey, because it's just so much fun. And today was awesome too. And I can't wait for Wednesday.